for Group 4, and we're going to talk about unit testing. We're going to talk about what is unit testing, what roles are in unit testing, the upsides, the downsides, and how we can apply this method better. So what is unit testing? Unit testing is a software development process in which the smallest testable parts on application called units are individually and independently scrutinized for proper operations. Unit testing can be done manually but is often automated. Also, unit testing is a component of test-driven development, a pragmatic methodology that takes a meticulous approach to building a product by means of continual testing and revision. The great benefit to unit testing is that the earlier a problem is identified, the fewer compound errors occur in the future. So, when is the unit testing performed? Unit testing is the first level of a software testing and is performed prior to the integration testing. Who performs this unit testing? Normally, it's performed by software developers themselves or their peers. In rare cases, it may also be performed by independent software testers. Some of the techniques that unit testing has are black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. There are other techniques, but they are not part of the unit testing, which are red box testing, and this is a combination of white box and gray box. There is another technique that is not from the unit testing, this yellow box testing and also green box testing. And these two are also a combination of these unit testing methods or techniques that we just saw. The black box testing use the user interface, the input and the output are tested. In the white box testing, which we did last week, each of the functions behavior is going to be tested. And then the gray box testing just consists in executing tests, risk, and assessment methods. Some of the roles and responsibilities in unit testing are mainly assigned to the project manager, the technique leader, the developer, and the quality assurance staff. The responsibility or the main responsibility of a project manager is coordinate the unit testing activities, as well as the technique leader is responsible of review the unit testing achievement. The developers are in charge of design the unit testing case, establish the unit testing environment, develop the test code, execute the unit test, generate the unit test results, generate the unit test report, and finally peer review the other unit testing case design. And last but not least important, the quality assurance staff is in charge of verify the unit testing result and review and approve the unit testing report. So as we can see in this image, the life cycle of the unit testing is constantly, it has a beginning and at the end, but we can see that these steps are going to be applied until the process of the software is done. So we're going to execute unit tests, we're going to fix defects and re-execute unit tests, we're going to code review, we're going to check in the code in repository, check out the code from repository, make changes, and if there's still something that is not working, we're going to start again. We're going to execute another unit test, then fix defects, and re-execute unit test, and so on until our code and software is perfect.
The first two bullet points are tied in that unit testing helps make better quality code that is also more cost efficient. Unit testing improves efficiency because bugs are able to be found much quicker, allowing the programmer to fix the bug before their software is released. It is more efficient and cost-effective to fix a bug early rather than having to correct it when the project is near completion or has already been given to the customer. Unit testing also helps the programmer structure functions and objects better as they have to consider how and what to test for each before they even start writing the code. Unit tests also make it easier to track any issues or bugs back to their source, allowing the programmer to find and fix the problem sooner. Unit testing can also function as documentation. Programmers can look at unit tests to gain a basic understanding of the tested unit's functionality. Finally, unit testing helps code be more modular and reusable. While unit testing will catch a lot of bugs, it cannot catch every issue that may arise. Unit tests only test the functionality of the unit. It cannot catch any issues from interacting with other units or the performance of the unit itself. Unit testing can also be time-consuming. On average, a programmer needs to write 3 to 5 lines of test code just for 1 line of regular code. Also, the more complex the unit being tested is can make it more difficult to write tests that can accurately cover all the functionality of the unit. Finally, unit testing cannot cover anything that the programmer might have forgotten. If there was some type of feature that was required by the customer, but the programmer did not add that to the functionality of the unit, the programmer would not think or have no reason to write a test to cover this missing feature.
Unit testing is very effective in our current industry-wise, so it makes our coding practice more agile. And also, if you have a big software and you want to make just a simple update, like making version 1.1 from version 1.1.0, very small minor changes. So in that case, you can work in a simple unit or very small fragment of the code. You just want to change or maybe add a new feature. So at that time, you just can work in one simple unit, test it, and integrate it in the system without affecting the entire software. So as I said earlier, it is very important in remodeling of the existing software. So we can pull the code from somewhere else. Like if we are working in a big project, then we can pull some code from maybe open source some code and implement in our system, so we don't have to write the whole code. Also, the benefit is if we do unit testing in the code we pull.
So basically, what remodeling of the existing software is like, okay, if you have a software and you want to remodel certain part of it, so simply what you do is code that part, do testing on it, and then integrate, rather than writing the whole software, or rather than writing some code in existing software and trying to test it. So basically, creating a unit and then trying to test it individually saves a lot of time and money. So reusability matters. Reusability, it's very important while coding. Like basically, if you have a unit that is working, some fragment of code that is working perfectly, like parsing JSON, extracting JSON, or extracting some data from a JSON string. So basically, in that case, when you have a code that is already working, we can just test it to just verify that it works according to our expectation. So in that case, unit testing is very useful, and we can reuse the same code again and again. So here's one example that I am presenting. So I'm presenting a team A and team B. Team A prefers to write a whole program and then go through testing after integration, while team B prefers to write each section of the code and then test it one after the another, and then integrate it finally, and then again test it. So it is found that according to the study by the Microsoft, it is found that the team A which does whole coding and integration and then testing will be a lot behind in time than team A using same resources. Also, I have experienced this thing in my personal project. I was doing this extracting data from certain API. So what I did basically is first I try to link my program to my software to the API, and it did work, right? And that was part of testing, first phase testing. And then I tried to parse it, and I was able to do it it was second phase parsing, and I finally implemented all my finally I had the implementation part or implementation code that was extract that I got the information I got from the extracted part. I was just presenting in my web page, and that was my third unit testing, and it did pass. So it was basically each individual test, like basically, so it is basically like dividing a big chunk of work or program into a subsection. Here's our reference, and here is our reference. Thank you.